Welcome back. Today, we need to talk about Melania Trump and the coordinated effort to rewrite history. Recently, Melania has been aggressively attempting to distance herself from her husband Donald Trump, specifically regarding the Jeffrey Epstein scandal. But if you look closely, her sudden claims of ignorance aren't a genuine defense. They are a highly calculated, strategic pivot. She is desperately trying to avoid accountability for her own alleged involvement and proximity to the events, emails, photos, and videos tied to Epstein. And people in Washington are finally starting to call it out.
Take those seats are obligated by law to release the files that these individuals are not releasing now.
He's right. The Epstein Files Transparency Act doesn't just go away. Just because Thomas Massie may no longer be in office does not mean it just goes away. And he suggests that Melania Trump knows more than she's letting on publicly. He seemingly now doesn't really have to run for re-election, doesn't have to raise any money, isn't really worried about the political ramifications of speaking out about Jeffrey Epstein, is saying, I'm going to read more names on the House floor. Now, we'll see if Thomas Massie goes through with it. I personally hope he does go through with it. I think it's important that people see and hear the truth. But ultimately, it's anyone's guess what will end up happening. It comes this evening as the White House is urging GOP lawmakers on Capitol Hill to tweet support for the ongoing deal with Iran. Some did over the weekend. Others were, quote, dreading returning from recess having to defend it. Because the deal as it currently stands, the United States and Iran have reached an agreement in principle on a preliminary deal that would reopen the Strait of Hormuz and commit Iran to disposing of its stockpile of highly enriched uranium. The deal still requires approval from Trump and Iran's supreme leader. Under the framework, Iran would clear mines from the strait, allow free passage of commercial shipping. U.S. would lift its naval blockade of Iranian ports. Iran would also be allowed to resume oil sales, and then a 60-day...
Representative Massie isn't the only one demanding answers. Representative Ro Khanna is rightly pointing out that if Melania goes on the record stating Epstein had help, she needs to sit down under oath and tell the House Oversight Committee exactly who she is talking about. Her pre-marriage relationship and proximity to Epstein's circles warrant a full, formal investigation, not just a passing social media comment. The reason the pressure is dialing up right now is because the clock is ticking. Current leadership at the FBI and the Justice Department have been heavily criticized for violating the law by failing to release millions of files related to this case. But they can't hide it forever. The mechanism that is going to force this wide open is the Epstein Files Transparency Act.
The first time, the Epstein Files Transparency Act, where a member of Congress or members of Congress got a law passed in the House and the Senate, signed by the president to compel the release of documents. What does that mean? Why is it different? Because every subpoena from Congress expires at the end of Congress. This law never expires. This law, unless they can get a House and a Senate and a president to repeal it, is in effect for infinity.
Wow.
50 years from now, if there's an attorney general who's like cleaning out a drawer and finds some Epstein files, they have 30 days to release them. It's incumbent on, we didn't name Pam Bondi, we said the Attorney General of the United States. As long as there is an Attorney General of the United States, that cabinet position may go away before the Epstein Files Transparency Act goes away, because it's forever. But let me tell you the category of documents that will eventually be released that haven't been released that you touched on.
Yes.
We said in the Epstein Files Transparency Act that you have to, the DOJ, FBI, and U.S. attorneys have to release internal memos and emails about decisions on whether to prosecute or not prosecute, about decisions on whether to investigate or not investigate. And right now, the Attorney General is claiming something called deliberative process privilege that they use when they want to keep Freedom of Information Act files from getting out or to redact them. They say that, and it's a longstanding rule for freedom.
Knowing that this transparency law remains in effect regardless of who sits in the Oval Office, Melania's team has switched to a strategy of sheer intimidation. She is using aggressive legal threats and leveraging the court system to retaliate against anyone who dares to question her past. She wants to project an image of being completely untouchable. Look no further than her recent legal battle with author Michael Wolff. While the judge dismissed Wolff's preemptive lawsuit as tactical gamesmanship, the real story here is the billion-dollar legal threat Melania's team deployed. They are attempting to bankrupt and silence journalists who report on her ties to Epstein's network. It is a textbook intimidation tactic. But this defensive, secretive posture isn't just limited to Melania Trump. It is systemic across the entire administration. We are dealing with an executive branch that seems to be heavily insulated by and tied to Epstein-adjacent figures. It is what many are now calling an Epstein-occupied administration. And you don't have to look far to see the conflicts of interest bleeding into official government appointments. Just look at this Senate hearing. Senator Elizabeth Warren had to corner a Trump-appointed official regarding his massive, undisclosed assets, explicitly asking if they are tied to money laundering or Epstein's financing vehicles, like Juggernaut. When the people tapped to run our economy refused to answer basic conflict of interest questions about Jeffrey Epstein, the depth of the corruption becomes undeniable. From Melania's billion-dollar gag orders to cabinet nominees refusing to disclose Epstein-linked financial assets, the cover-up is happening right in front of us. But with the Epstein Files Transparency Act acting as a ticking time bomb for these withheld documents, their wall of silence is bound to crack. We'll keep covering it as more files are inevitably forced out into the light. Thanks for watching, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.